today, I don't want to make it like academic, but on this debate landscape, I think we need to have a conversation about what is an actual debate. Because we watched Zach, quote unquote, debate Lisa Knows. We watched Zach, quote unquote, debate Andrew Wilson. Then Zach went over on Gary's channel. Last night, Lisa was on this other content creator, and I'm going to bring his up in a second, channel. And I think we need to be honest. A lot of these are not debates. They're not debates. They're really just discussions, conversations, talks, if you will. Because I've been doing a little bit of research into debates. I'm like, there's not most of the time when you have a debate, you have a judge or somebody that's moderating it. Not very rarely is it like self-moderated debates where like I hold myself accountable. You hold yourself accountable. It doesn't actually work like that. And not saying that we can't, because I say that these are debates sometimes too, but really they're just discussions. You're just talking. You're just fleshing out something. That the format is one thing, but then also what is actually being discussed. And we're going to look at last night. Lisa Knows was on, I forgot the young brother's name. She was on the brother's channel and they debated for about 2.5 hours. And I'm going to show you just the opening of it. And it's really strange. It's really strange. I don't fully understand what he's doing. I don't know what the young guy is up to. And you can tell Lisa knows what she's doing. Lisa's on to what she's doing. But the format that this young guy was trying to, he tried to position himself as if he was a lawyer, but he's not. And like, well, I'm doing my opening statement before the jury. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? It was really odd. So I wanted, and I made a little slide presentation. We're going to talk about debates and such of that nature. We are also going to look at Natalie's most recent video as well as Bronze's most recent video. And then I got a Charlie Kirk Q&A. And maybe we can add something to, a little bit of tools to your tool belt, toolbox, if you will, helping you when you're having these discussions with people. It doesn't have to be about the Charlie Kirk shenanigans. It could be about anything. But being able to parse through an idea and get to the most salient points and making sure you frame your questions correctly, you frame your argument, all that kind of good stuff. So I'm hoping that we can get something from this. I want to get something from it as well. His name was Didi? That was his name? Okay, I forgot the brother's name. I ain't gonna lie. Yeah, but see, the thing is, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. You know what? Let's do this. Let's do that first. Let's do that one first. That was not queued up to be first, but let's just talk about it first and let's get it out of the way. I'm going to play the first 9 minutes of that discussion that Didi had with Lisa yesterday. There's a couple of places where I want to stop and point out what I'm seeing as the problem. And one of the main problems is like not understanding what our role is in this discussion. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a lawyer. Like, this guy looks like he's a pre-K law student who thinks he's an actual lawyer. It's kind of crazy work. You don't watch a lot of Law and Order. You watch a lot of Suits and how you think you're an actual lawyer. And it's crazy work. And Lisa calls him out and says, we're not lawyers. I'm not prosecuting. You're not defending. We are just discussing and debating the facts of the matter. He wants to turn this into like a Matlock episode or something. I don't know, like Timu Johnny Cochran, or I have no idea what he was doing. So let me bring this in. Shout out to that young brother for sure.
My name's Demetrius. I go by Didi. And this is Didi Got a Podcast. If this is your first time here, I appreciate you for being here, whether you agree with my position or not. I'm still appreciative. And as always, please hit the like button on your way in. I do want to state for those of you, I've seen some responses across different platforms saying that this is a waste of time and I should just focus on the investigation.
And I want to stop right there. To be honest with you, a lot of these conversations are a waste of time because people are not listening to one another. If I'm not going to listen to you and I'm not going to learn from you and I'm not coming with a humble position that maybe I can learn something, then yeah, it really is a waste of time. There's no lie detected there at all. The problem is many of these people don't realize, like, it's not just a matter of you getting your point out and just, spewing your insight and wisdom, but actually learning and challenging what you really believe or what you think you believe. So I don't think this young man is open to that because Lisa's making a very clear point that what he's talking about is complete foolishness. It's nonsense. But let him finish up, Jason. Let's go.
Let me tell you why I disagree. Number one, in all honesty, I'm always a little baffled when it comes to this Charlie Kirk investigation. When a person takes the position that they believe what we've been told, or they sort of allude to the fact that they believe what we've been told, when from my perspective, there's...
I'm going to, real quick, I want to stop before this thing gets past me. And I want to talk about this. If you could remember, Mikey, a little later, after we get done with this, I'm doing the slideshow. Bring this back up. And I want to explain why I think the Andrew Wilson, Zach Castillo debate was way better than any of the other ones. And I think I'll explain why.
So many gaping holes in this investigation. When I spend about 90% of my videos over the past 6 months have been about the Charlie Kirk investigation, it's not because I cared so much or that I care so much about Charlie Kirk. It's because I believe the implications are a lot greater and a lot bigger than Charlie Kirk. I believe it was potentially tied to other things that was going on behind the scenes. And if you've been here, you know, we've been through all the weeds.
So he tacitly told you he didn't care about Charlie Kirk, but he also said that I believe it's bigger. Not that I have facts or have any kind of evidence to that point, but just I have a feeling in my gut. Therein is the problem.
Over the past 6 months. But if I'm being honest, another reason this is important is because, and this is just, you know, showing some humility, maybe the people on the other side are right. Maybe they've seen something, maybe they've heard something that I quite do not understand or I haven't heard just yet. And typically how human nature works, we tend to find ourselves around people that believes in things the way that we do. Or we find ourselves maybe even subconsciously searching for somebody that agrees with us. And so from my position, I would like to do that, especially when a person is always open to a discussion or a debate. This may turn into a debate. And the last debate or discussion we had on this channel was with the TPUSA pastor, John Amenchukwu, or one of the pastors on the payroll of TPUSA. And that didn't turn out too well for him, as many of you all already know. Still respect him and his politics, but on this topic, we vastly disagree. And so in this particular case, I'm going to have a guest to come on, and she's been going back and forth with a couple of people, Baron Coleman. I know she's been attacking Candace, and she's pretty passionate from her position. And so with that, I'm going to bring her onto the platform, and we'll jump right into the discussion.
Hello.
Do you go by Lisa?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now, to be fair, Lisa said that she wasn't feeling well, and that's why she didn't come across as warm of a personality. I didn't get it. I think Lisa did as well as she could do, all things being considered. I do think that the part of the problem is what we're about to watch right here. The introduction to the discussion, the debate. I don't want to say debate because I really don't think this really was a debate. I think this was really just a sharing of ideas. And in my opinion, the problem starts out with the fact that, well, watch what he does. Watch what he does.
Lisa, I'm Demetrius. Feel free to call me Demetrius or Didi or D, whichever works better for you. I'm totally fine with that. And yeah, I'm gonna just jump right into it so that we're not wasting people's time, so that I don't misrepresent you. Lisa, do you mind just sort of well, I guess the easy ways. I'll ask you this question. Do you believe that Tyler Robinson was the person to take out Charlie Kirk?
Yes.
Okay. This is going to be
okay. There it is. Now she answered his question. He posed the question, and now the in a debate format, then he would choose the negative side, that he does not believe that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk, whereas she's taking a position of the positive. That's pretty straightforward. Watch what he does.
Be great. This is going to be very great. Sort of, if it's all right with you, Lisa, I'm going to sort of give an opening statement before we hop right into it. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So
he's giving an opening statement, and Lisa's not going to give an opening statement, though. because this is not a formal debate. He literally said that he's treating this as if they were in court and he was prosecuting a case or defending a case, at least was prosecuting it. And none of those things are true. This is just a discussion. So what he's doing here, in my opinion, is trying to position himself as if some kind of expert. And you saw it if you watched the debate. We're not watching all of it, of course. But if you watched it, you see that Lisa's asking him for evidence, and he's all over the place. It is a hot Mexican jumping bean all over the place. It is everywhere, from bullets to how did he scale the wall to what about clothes to everywhere in between. It's all over the place. She's like, just give me some evidence, kind of like Andrew Wilson was asking for. So let's let him go, Jason.
If this was a court and we were two attorneys, just let me know if you disagree with this, but I would by default be the defense attorney and you will be the prosecution. As to say, you are looking to prosecute Tyler Robinson and I will be looking to defend Tyler Robinson to some extent. And I only say by some extent because I'm not saying that Tyler Robinson is totally innocent, but the very things that we were told about Tyler Robinson, I do not buy it.
That's not the question that he asked her initially. That's why I don't think that these self-moderated debates are as fruitful. You need a non-biased umpire, ref, judge, whatever you want to call it, to keep the question in the context. Like, if Lisa just said that she believes that Tyler Robinson did it, what are you talking about? What is he talking about? Because he's basically saying he thinks he did it, but he doesn't know to what extent. Like that's not what Lisa answered. Lisa said, yes, she believes Tyler Robinson did it. You should be saying, no, I don't believe Tyler Robinson did it. And then y'all debate, discuss, chew it up and talk about it. But see, that's what I don't think that this is a real debate. I know this young man, feels passionate about it. He's got his little suit coat on, he's got an Easter jacket on and that kind of stuff like that. But I don't think that impersonating Johnny Cochran or doing the wish.com Matlock thing is going to work because Lisa's not having that. So let's go.
But if we are going to treat this like a court session, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case is not about headlines. It's not about speculation. And it's not even about what anyone thinks may have happened. It's about one thing and one thing only. Whether the government can prove, or Lisa in this particular case, can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that my client, Tyler Robinson, committed the crime he is accused of.
This is what happens when you watch entirely too much Law and Order, SVU, and Suits. You think you're a lawyer, man. Like, look, I'm a pre-K law student, and y'all know what that means. That means I know nothing. Why is he doing this? This is not an opening statement in a court of law. You don't know anything. You have no evidence, sir. You have no evidence at all. So what are you doing?
That is the highest burden in our justice system. And it exists for a reason. Because when the stakes are this high, guesses, assumptions, and incomplete stories are not enough. Over the course of this video or this trial, you are going to hear a lot from Ms. Lisa. But when you listen closely, you will notice something important. Gaps. Gaps in the timeline, gaps in the physical evidence, gaps in the identification of the person responsible. You will see that key pieces of evidence are either missing, unclear, or open to more than one interpretation. You will hear that certain conclusions were reached before all the facts were fully examined. And you will learn that alternative possibilities were not thoroughly ruled out. I mean, she may, point to some evidence, but you will have to ask yourself, does it conclusively prove who actually committed this act? Or does it simply raise more questions, like all the questions that we've had? Because in a courtroom, questions matter. And if at the end of this case, you are left with the reasonable questions about what happened, about who is responsible, about whether the evidence truly adds up, then the law requires only one verdict, not guilty.
What is he talking about? See, this is that parasocial thing that we've allowed parasocial behavior, main character syndrome to get together and bump uglies and have these stupid children. Because this is just dumb, sir. We are not the judge, the jury, the executioner. We're none of that stuff. We're at worst, we're bystanders watching. That's about all we are. We're not, and this positioning yourself as if you're a lawyer is just nasty work. And like and Lisa's not going to fall for it. Shout out to Lisa. She's not falling for it, but sir, this is a debate. We're having a conversation. At best, we're having a conversation on this, over on the sidewalk or at the over in the fellowship hall or at the barbershop. This is not you think too highly of yourself. And I'm sorry. This Timu Johnny Cochran behavior is unacceptable. Let's go.
Tyler Robinson does not have to prove anything to anybody. He does not have to explain anything away. The burden never shifts to him. It stays at all times with the government. And if they cannot meet that burden, if they cannot eliminate reasonable doubt, then your duty is clear. At the end of this video or at the end of this trial, we are confident that you will see the evidence does not meet that standard. And when you do, we ask that you return the only verdict that the law allows, not guilty. I would like to start off with a question. What is it that has...
He already posed a question. We don't need to pose another one. He already posed the question, and you know her position because all she's going to do is point to the charging documents. That's all she's going to point to, which everybody keeps referring to. So if you want to start on page 1 and go through it, that would make more sense than just sitting here bloviating. I have no idea what he was doing. This is kind of embarrassing.
Made you so definitively convinced that Tyler Robinson did this?
It's the only thing that makes sense. It's the only thing that we have no substantial evidence to support any of the other theories that have been put out there. Over the last 6 months, it's been a consistent, steamroll of information that's being put out. I'm not going to sit here and cosplay a trial. We're not lawyers. You're not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, unless you have a legal degree that I don't know about.
Shout out to Lisa. She said we ain't cosplaying in the courtroom. We ain't cosplaying up in here. I don't know. I have no idea. This is some wild work. Let's go.
Information that's being put out. I'm not going to sit here and cosplay a trial. We're not lawyers. You're not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, unless you have a legal degree that I don't know about. But at the end of the day, as someone who debates topics, I kind of think that this is ridiculous. But at the end of the day, unless you have something to present that is substantial to tell us that we can go in another direction outside of Tyler Robinson, what the state has provided in that charging document, you cannot put something on a charging document that doesn't exist. You cannot hold a man behind bars just for shits and giggles. That's not how this works. At the end of the day, there's a very real system here and a real process that has been working in this country for hundreds of years. Is it perfect? No. But typically, most of the time, it works the way that it should. Unless you can get, like you said, enough reasonable doubt, and then you get a Casey Anthony or you get an O.J. Simpson. And is that truly what you want to happen in this situation? That if this man truly pulled the trigger and you're wrong, are you okay with him being able to walk because of the circus that has been created online?
No, but let me address something. You said that it's not fair because we're not actual attorneys. Well, Lisa, the reason why I started off
well, we're not, though. You can't overlook that. You're sitting here. He literally said that. Did he not say that? If we were attorneys in court, we're not, though. It would be like saying if I was an NFL football player, but you're not, Jason. It's irrelevant. You're not.
What I did is because the man is actually on trial for real. It's not like we're just saying somebody that they haven't arrested.
But what expertise do you have in the legal system?
None.
Have you taken a single law class?
She killing him. She cooking him. She cooking him.
Nope, me neither. I'm not going to sit here and try to be something that I'm not. At the end of the day, I am not a legal expert. If you want to talk to a legal expert, you need to get Andrea Burkhart or somebody like that on your show.
The problem is, Lisa, you don't actually care if somebody's a legal expert.
What do you have after 6 months of this rigmarole that we've had online? What do you have to substantiate that there is another finger that we can point somewhere outside of Tyler Robinson?
Got you. All right. So, Lisa, again, you don't actually care if somebody is a legal expert or not because you're actually arguing with attorneys that take the position that I'm taking. So you don't actually care about that. So don't.
But I can argue with an attorney. You can argue with a doctor. You can argue with a police officer. I don't recommend it. I'm telling you. But you can argue with an expert in their craft or their field. That doesn't guarantee that they're going to be blameless and without flaw. If they did something or said something that wasn't right, you can correct them. That's not a problem. So just because Lisa does correct or argue with or argue against persons in the law field, that doesn't mean that she's wrong. Okay, so like that idea and that notion, well, you argue with experts, and what's your point? What's your point?
Pretend that you do.
Second of all, that's not what I said. I said I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I am a legal expert or have any legal
but somebody with
that
the legal
I do not have, and you should not be doing so either.
See, and this is a bad thing. I don't know what the fallacy is. Because I have argued with a police officer in the past does not mean that conservative bug can take the position of a legal expert or a police officer, law enforcement officer, and like I can't argue with them. Like, what are you talking about? That's silly. And I think Lisa did a great job of doing this. This is not a debate by any means of measure. I'm going to show you a quick little slide presentation I put together about what debates actually are. 1v1 debate is. This is not it. This is a discussion at best, a conversation. There's a little bit of shouting that happens later on, and that's fine. We can have a discussion, a heated discussion, right? But if you want to, and again, he's trying to do this formal debate format, but he's all over the place.
That's fair. But what I'm saying to you is, but the people that are, you also have a problem with their position.
I do, because even with the law, there's obviously different opinions, but Baron Coleman is not connected to this case in any way, shape, or form. And he's also financially benefiting off of this narrative that he's spinning. So no, I'm not going to take someone who's financially benefiting and is in Candace Owens' pocket.
I can't argue with that because I don't know if that's true. That may be true. I don't know.
He literally said on his podcast last night that he was on the phone with her. So what do you think? She plays his clips on her show. It's very clear that they are in cahoots with one another.
Got you.
All right. So that's the end of that. And I just want to point that out. Like we might need to be a little bit more judicious, a little bit more gatekeeper about the term debate. Because this isn't a debate. That was an argument at best, a heated discussion at worst. Let me pull that out like that and do like this. All right. So let me go over. This is just a quick. Many of you all may or may not know my daughter is a debate champion, and so went through a couple of her books and the format that they do debate. They do team debate though, so this I did have to get it augmented for a 1v1 debate. But let's just go with it here. If y'all would work with me and be so kind, and let me just see if this makes some sense. So you got a 1v1 debate. You have a motion, and my motion was Adidas are better than Nike. Right? Or Adidas is better than Nike. So there's going to be an affirmative and there's going to be a negative. And the focus is what matters the most. So we're not going to talk about pricing. We're not going to be talking about size differentials. We're not going to be talking about where they're made or anything of that unless it gets down to what matters the most. Okay? So that is the framing of the debate. Now, here's the affirmative construction. We got our framework. We're going to be talking about comfort. We'll be talking about style, and we'll talk about culture. The arguments are the boost of comfort, streetwear dominance, and cultural influence. That would be the affirmative, if you will, of that Adidas are better than Nikes. The cross-examination, the negative coming at the affirmative. So then they ask me questions like, how do you measure comfort? Which is a valid question, right? Why is culture more important than performance? Now, notice we didn't talk about performance. We didn't talk about athletics or anything of that nature. We talked about cultural relevance. And then lastly, what about Nike athletes? Okay, so this is just a different approach. And by the way, thank you so much. Thank you so much. The reason why I think, and here it is, there you go. Respectfully, the reason why I think the Andrew Wilson, Zach Castillo debate was so good and people were really like so good about it is Andrew did not get off of his square. Andrew knew exactly. Andrew understands this way better than I do, right? Andrew knows what he's talking about. And so Andrew didn't buckle and go off in these little rabbit trails and these little side quests and all that kind of stuff. He knew exactly where he was going, what he wanted to do, and how he was going to do it. And so when we see Andrew, he's not all over the place, tiring your brain out. Because I went back and I did watch it again. So I watched it with y'all, and then I watched it again. And I'm like, you don't feel mentally tired. I don't know how to say. I hope that makes sense. And if it makes sense, please let me know in the chat. You don't feel like your brain is overworking, trying to follow all these different, chasing waterfalls or all over the place, right? And I think that's because Andrew stayed right in pocket. And you see the frustration on Zach's face because he can't go all these other places. What about the bullet? What about the screwdriver? What about the bomb sniffing dog? And what about the maroon shirts? None of that stuff got into the chat. None of that stuff got into the debate. So I really believe that the reason why the Andrew Wilson and Zach Costello was better because Andrew was in control of the debate. Period. End of story. He was in control of it. He's sitting there smoking his smoking his cigarettes, drinking his coffee. He was not going to be bothered. He knew where he was going to go, and he was not going to go anywhere else. I'm on my way to Tennessee. You are not going to get me to Mississippi. You're not going to get me over to Florida. I am on my way to Tennessee. And I think that was the reason why. Now, no shade to anybody else who's quote unquote debated somebody, no shade to Lisa, no shade to Gary, any of those other cats. And we're going to look at the Baron Coleman debate earlier as well. Or I'm sorry, Rage Bronson discussing Baron Coleman about his debate with Andrew. But my point is, I think that's why many people found Andrew's better or more beneficial, if you will, because Andrew was in control of the discussion, and he knew where he was going to go. He was walking him down the street. He was on his way to Tennessee. He was not going to veer to the left or to the right. He was not bothered by any of that stuff. Okay, let's keep it going. Okay. And I hope that made sense. So here's a negative construction framework: performance plus innovation plus reach. And here's the arguments. We got the athletic performance, shoe technology, and global dominance. Notice those are none of the things that we were talking about in the intro. So these are the things that the negative would be trying to introduce into the debate. And I hope that made sense. So here's some questions, cross-examination. Do everyday people need athletic performance? Does size matter better, or size mean better? We're talking about the size of the dominance of Nike in the shoe wearing space. And what about lifestyle use? Okay. And then lastly, affirmative rebuttal. So I'm going to attack the negative rebuttal by saying performance isn't the most important. I want them to defend everyday comfort matters more. And then lastly, I'm going to line it up by Adidas fits daily life. So that would be the example. Notice everything's staying right here in the general vicinity of Adidas versus Nike. We're not introducing Reebok. K-Swiss has not entered the chat. New Balance, I don't care how much you like them, they're not in here as well. Converse, who? Okay. The negative rebuttal: style changes, performance lasts. Quality equals performance, and if it fails in use, it fails overall. So that's just another example of pointing out some problems in the shoe wearing space and how does it actually fit and how does it actually work. And then final affirmative rebuttal: judge on everyday value. Comfort plus culture wins. So the closing: Adidas works for everybody. That would be my closing statement, if you will. And then my key lessons debate is about what matters most. Control the framework, win the debate. So again, when you set up the framework properly, you're able to say, hey, these are the rules of engagement. And we're going to see that when we look at Rage Bronson in a minute. When people don't set up the framework properly, you're just all over the place. That's why most of the Cantifa people don't want to talk about the charging documents. They don't want to talk about that because they want to talk about all of these hypothetical whataboutisms. But they don't want to say, okay, on the charging documents, it says this. And because it says this, I believe X about what it says on the charging document. They don't want to do that. They want to go everywhere and anywhere but those charging documents, because that is at the current moment, the best collection of all the data that we have, all the evidence that we have is on the charging document. We're not talking about, having a conversation with Ray down the street from UVU. Is he in a charging document? We're not talking about that. We're not talking about the Yautja and the invisible cloaking device. Is that on the charging document? Then we're not talking about it. But they want to talk about everything and anything. And keep in mind, a lot of the stuff they're talking about is just like whataboutisms. Is a possibility, sure. Is it feasible? I don't know about that. But we don't have any reason to believe that would happen. Kind of like when Andrew Wilson asked Zach about the Predator. It doesn't make sense. Sure, it could have happened, but it doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of problems with that. And why are we even introducing something silly like that? Therein is the problem. I hope that made sense. So I was looking at Lisa's and I understand what people were saying. It was extremely exhausting. And I don't think it was because of her. I do think it's because the young blood just wasn't willing to listen because he already knew where he wanted to go. He wanted to sit there and just ramble on about all the different whataboutisms that have been introduced into this case by people who are not in this case, by the way, which is crazy work. I know you liked that episode. This is actually a clip from a larger live stream. The link is down in the description, so you can go check it out. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you down there. Grace and peace.